right, welcome everyone to yet another episode of the 440th VFW podcast. I'm Tyrant, and joining me today is a guest I'm very excited to have on. It's someone we've been talking about having on the show since pretty much we started. He's one of the very original, very first members of the 440th, and has an extensive, as I'm sure you'll hear, BMS career, Falcon career, really stretching over a wide variety of activities and a long time. I'm talking about and very happy to welcome my wingmate, Nick. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey, Tyrant. Thanks for having me. And I'm doing fine. Although, to be honest, I'm freaking nervous, Having such an interview is like doing your first air-to-air refueling and all your wing colleagues are watching you. So, but I must say, the studio looks nice. The chair you gave me is quite comfortable, so I feel good.
Yeah, I figured you'd be happy with that full cockpit seat that I made for you, custom in my shop, and shipped over to Germany for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, the 30-degree incline's a little weird for typing, but anyway, no, it's great to have you on, and of course, I have to thank you as well because you recorded what is definitely one of my favorite podcast episodes, which is to say the one that you sort of surprised us with. Where you had on some of the other wing members and pulled that all together. That was utterly fantastic, and I know I thanked you on the forums, and but here's my chance to thank you voice to voice, as it were. That was a really great episode, so it's fun to get a chance to turn the tables and have you back on with me as the host this time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and but it was not just about me. It was the whole team. Everyone who was invited made a great job and let this thing happen. So yeah, still proud of it.
You should be. But let's turn to other matters because I think you're one of those people. When I was talking to some other people about ideas for the show, I'm like, well, we could have Nick on, but it might be hard to fit everything that we could possibly talk to Nick about in one episode. So we'll go ahead and jump in. And I mean, honestly, like I said, your Falcon career is so broad and deep that it's difficult to know where to start. So maybe what I'll do is throw it to you, and you can kind of take us through, starting with your origin story and walking through the various things that you've done with and for the Falcon community, and I'll jump in with questions if I have them, but maybe just throw it to you to kind of, take us through your career.
There were a lot of up and downs, I would say. Highlights, definitely the day when Falcon 4.0 was released. I mean, back then I played Falcon 3.0, and before I played Falcon on the Atari ST. And, the first version with missions like Black Bandit, Venus Flytrap, or Double Dragon, where you had to select the number of enemy MiGs, right? I think max was 3, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we had no internet, but friends and we bought a really expensive serial cable to do 1-versus-1 dogfights. And I can remember one day when some friends and I met each other, and I asked for a hot seat competition. I think that was the first real LAN party, so to say. And my friends and we did a bet for a box of beer, myself against the 4 others, and who was able to get the best result in shooting down AI mix, I can remember. And there were different ranks, first lieutenant, major, up to colonel. And my friends, they selected first lieutenant because it was the easiest level. But I chose colonel because you got more points per down MiG here. So I started to fight against the endless incoming MiGs. And after 3 or 4, I was shot down. Not my best result, but it was about 10,000 points or so. And then it was my friend's turn. The best virtual pilots came first, and one after another struggled. I was quite sure to be still in the lead when my best friend Thomas had his chance, and he was the last in the row, and the only one who never played Falcon before. I already tasted the beer on my tongue, and what happened? Thomas shot down one MiG after another, and he was at one point low in fuel and ended the mission. And the guys won. I paid the box of beer, and we all were laughing about the result. That was a day to remember.
Nice. And as we'll see later, I hope we get to talk about this anyway. And if we don't, we'll have to have you back on. Sort of beer and flight sims with friends has become something of a theme for you. But I don't want to jump ahead too much. I'll let you continue.
So yeah, next story I would say what was a highlight for me when I first met my first IP instructor pilot, so to say, via the internet. His call sign was and still is Cop. He is a police officer in real life and founder of the former 23rd Fighting Hawks, a vital squadron with a very high experienced guys. One of them joined us a couple of months ago. He's still flying, that's magic. And we become real friends. And Cop and I, during that time, we had no IQT and SOPs back in 2002 or so it was. And Cop and I, we were on a training mission, and on the way back home, about 20 miles before home plate, Cop asked me, "Hey Nick, when was your last flameout landing?" And I answered, not that long ago. Why? And I think I only made one or two until then. And he answered, "Hey, now is the time," he said, and shot one bullet and one bullet only directly in my engine exhaust, which forced me to do a flameout landing, which I managed, sweating all over the place, but I never forgot. So that's so. Such moments in Falcon history you never remember, you never forget.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's most amazing about that story, but I think it might just be the ability to shoot exactly one bullet into exactly the right place to shut down your engine. That's pretty fantastic.
He learned me a lot about the Falcon world, about how to get situation awareness and how to dogfight. And I always remember his sentence, "Don't look at the gun cross, don't look at the gun funnel, just feel the force." Yeah. And it was like a Jedi master with his student, and that's really cool.
I'm sure he was right too. I feel the same is sort of the key. We were talking about AAR earlier, and sort of the same is you just got to get a feel for it.
Yeah. Then back then, first real virtual fighter squadron for me was the Freebirds. They joined and also learned a lot. It was a first international group, which were all flying on a very high level. And I think there's still some guys online today, and I think Elf, Badger are two who are also flying in our wing. So it's, the community is not that big. You see each other minimum 2-3 times in your career. Mm-hmm. And it's good to have voices you're used to. And
I think it's one of the best things about the hobby. I mean, obviously it's a fascinating and interesting and absorbing thing in and of itself, but also the friendships that you create and that you maintain over years, even though sometimes it's people you've never seen face to face, although sometimes it is.
Yeah, right. And yes, we all went through the Falcon dance with all the different patches from the different development groups, and Super Pack 2, 3, 4, and then Allied Force. I think that version was the one who made multiplayer flying really stable. Mm-hmm. And Yeah, back in 2006, we founded a LAN meet here in the center of Europe, which is also the center of Germany. And this LAN meet exists now for 13 years. It was founded by Max from the Falconeers. Don't know if this group is still flying. And first event was on the 25th to 27th of May of 2006. And this event takes place annually, and it's in a small village that's called in German Buchenau. So I think all English guys call it Buchenau.
Yeah, that's my accent. Yep, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all cool. It's okay. And at one point Max was not able to continue the organization, so Colby, Kopp, and I continued. And today Hannibal and Bloodhound came to the team, two really nice guys who have the same spirit like we do. Yeah, and we're organizing this event each year. It's about 40 participants right now, and it's we know each other for so many years, so there have already been real friendships, you know. Some guys also meet each other on airbase visits or rock concerts, for example. So the whole LAN meet is, we're doing campaign flights, we do workshops, we do barbecues, and a lot of drinking. Most of the time, milk and water. But it's more about socializing and to see each other in real life, face to face, and that means a lot.
Yeah, so every year that I've known you, at least, you've posted pictures on the forum. When we were in the same group of the event, and it just looks amazing. I mean, just like you say, you can kind of tell there's a strong sense of community. I've been involved in a number of hobbies where I'll go to some meetup and you walk in and there's this sort of feeling like, oh, here's my tribe, right? Like these are my people, and it's just a unique, interesting feeling, and you can tell that it has that. But one of the things that I always really enjoy seeing is I know at least some years people have brought their pits, which is always very cool to see. I'm a little bit of a minor pit builder myself. I don't have anything like the fancy setup some do, but I always really enjoy seeing those pictures.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would say half of the group, about 20 people, they bring their pit each and every year. And some guys need a small truck to get all the stuff to Buchenau. Yeah, that's amazing. And each year you can see the process and how they proceed to make it more and more realistic, and that's really awesome when you see a full functional night pit, for example.
Yeah.
And but I'm like you, I don't have a self-built pit because I think it would then need too much time, and maybe when in a few years or so, then I will decide, okay, let's go to the next level of this hobby and start building a pit. But at the moment, I'm quite fine with my equipment, with a minimum pits, so to say.
It's interesting to hear someone like you, Nick, say to take this hobby to the next level, given that you're already at level like 50. But I think that's just the case, is there's always one more level. You're gonna meet somebody who, maybe they were even a fighter pilot in real life. They're retired now. They've actually flown an F-16, and they'll be flying the sim, and they'll be like, no, I still have some stuff I'd like to do or learn or explore or whatever.
Yeah, I think one point during the last couple of years regarding LAN meet, not forget to mention the Lowland Tiger Meet, which was the so-called official European Championship, which took place, I think it was between 2004 and 2013 or so. And
and this was Falcon?
It was Falcon 4. It started with Falcon 4 in the Netherlands with about 10 guys or so, and then it grew and grew, and then they looked for a bigger place, which they found in the northwest of Germany. Half an hour from the place I live, and then more and more people came to that LAN meet, and it went into a real competition where a group of 4 pilots had to fly 6 missions. They didn't know what to expect, and they got a briefing with mission, some tasks to achieve, and then they had to do their internal flight briefing and fly as a group of 4. And after that, they had to send in their results, briefing screens, ACMIs, and things like that to the judges. And you got for each mission, you got points, and after 6 missions, the team with the most points won and was called the European champion of Falcon 4. And there were over the years then IL-2, and Rise of Flight competitions as well, and display flights, and people came from all over the world, most from Europe, but we also had a team from Russia. They went about 16 hours from near Moscow with a train, then by plane to Frankfurt, and again plane and taxi to this place. That was pretty amazing. And in 2009, I had the chance to organize the F4 competition, and there we had about 180 participants.
Wow.
Overall, and that was a great event. Yeah.
Amazing. 180 participants. That is crazy. So I'm curious, this is 2009, you said. At the time, what was sort of and I don't know if you made any effort to get as many people as possible into a single virtual world. Did you? And if so, how many did you get into one world?
We didn't put them in the same environment. They got mission files, and they were flying as a team of 4. So every team hosted its own game, so to say.
Gotcha. That remains like a thing that is extremely challenging area of programming, is to have the large scale online. And I think BMS actually does pretty well now. Although, it's still a hard thing to pull off. I was just curious what it was like in 2009 and how it's evolved since then from your perspective.
Yeah, I think back in 2009, we still flew Allied Force, and then we switched to BMS, I think. And the guys from Lead Pursuit, they did a great job regarding multiplayer code, and were able to make it very stable. But I think today we are quite equal to that, and with next release, I think we could also make the multiplayer environment more stable than ever before. And it's great to have the opportunity to fly with 20, 30 or more people online together.
It is fun. I mean, it is quite a different experience, flying in the virtual world by yourself with the computer. And it's great. Like, obviously BMS is an amazing single player environment. But, I think for people that haven't done it the first time, you jump in and you're, working with a team of, it doesn't really matter how many, it could be one other person, but all the way up to, 12, 15 people in a flight, like some of our wing flights. It is really a different and amazing and awesome thing in my experience.
Same here. Fully agree with you.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you say, you've been doing sort of collaborative or I don't know, maybe online isn't the right word if it's a serial cable, but, head to head or, collaborative flight simming for so long now.
I mean, this is a good question that I asked to myself. Hey, what is different to other games? Yeah, I played online racing for a long period of time, and also founded a racing league. But at one point, it's always a challenge to fight against others, right? And
Yeah.
in online racing, for example, we came also to a level of realism where you needed the whole week to set up your car for the specific track, and then. Yeah, we were really fighting against each other, and there was less fun because everyone took it too seriously. And and at one point I said, "Oh, it's not fun anymore, and I don't have the time to invest so many hours to set up a virtual car."
Yeah.
So and other games. You go online and but it's always the same, and I think what is really what is special to Falcon 4 is that due to the great campaign engine, for example, each mission is different, most of the time we play together against the AI, and playing like a team, and you have to achieve goals as a team effort, so to say, and that's what's great. Every time it's different, and it will hopefully never stop.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we've talked about this on the show before. It's cool. Everybody likes different things, and I don't mind doing the occasional dogfighting, but in our wing, we focus on the cooperative aspect. And for me, like multiplayer cooperative is more attractive just in terms of what I enjoy than multiplayer competitive. So that's another aspect of, or really, I guess I'm reiterating. It's fun to fly with your friends is what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Cool. So I think we were to somewhere between 2009 and 2012, and it's a fascinating story. So please continue.
I think it was 2005 or so, where some friends of mine and we founded the virtual fighter squadron, the 49th Black Diamonds, which is really nice group, and we enjoyed it over a lot of years. At one point, I decided to switch to another virtual squadron because for me it was very interesting to have the international flair, to fly with people from different countries, and to know them, to understand how they feel, how they think, and to train my English. My English is not that good, but every time I fly with guys from other countries, I can also teach myself in English again and listen to that. And
your English is a million times better than my German, so you have nothing to apologize for.
Okay, thank you. And and that's this is why I joined the first virtual fighter squadron.
Right, where we met.
Yeah, where we met, but the Black Diamonds are still existing. Colby is now organizing this group, and they are still great people. We meet each other on the Buchenau LAN, for example, and they are flying DCS, IL2, they do online racing, they do U-boat simulations and all this stuff. This is a special community which I never see before. So there is no discussions, is DCS better or is BMS better? Okay, right. They have that on the forum as well sometimes, but there's no fighting. Everyone can do what he wants to do. There are no hard rules to be part of that group. And Yeah, it's great to see that this kind of community also works here in the Falcon world, so to say. Yeah.
Totally. No, that's great. I mean, when we were starting the 440th, we definitely wanted it to be a BMS wing because that lets us focus. Everyone has limited time and energy, and so for us, it was a decision about here's how we can enable ourselves to do a good job on one thing. But it is absolutely very cool that there are other organizations that have decided to take a different approach. It's the let 1,000 flowers bloom, as the saying goes, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And then we joined the 440s, or Dirk, Zeus, and you formed it. It was no question for me to join our group here. And although it's my fourth virtual squadron, I really feel home.
Yeah, we were super glad to have you. I mean, it's been a year actually. It's been pretty close to exactly a year as we record this. It's April in 2019 as we're recording this. We started I think we don't have like an official start date per se. There was sort of a period where Zeus was talking to Dirk and then me about getting this thing going. But it was around April 1st. So we like to joke a little bit that April 1st, April Fool's Day, is our anniversary. So it's been about a year, and I tell you, when we first did it, we didn't know what was going to happen. We thought maybe it would be the three of us, 6 months later, just flying missions together. But then had you come over and a bunch of other people, and it's flourished. And certainly the people that came on early in the process, like yourself, played a huge role in that. To have people that could create missions, that could lead flights, really let us build. Really, I should say Zeus and Dirk, they've been shouldering most of the load for a while now. Build up a wing where, people can come in at whatever level of experience they're at and have like a core, like a experienced core people who have been, for example, in 4 virtual fighter wings to lean on like yourself. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And hey, man, time flies. Yeah, it's more than
Right.
a year ago. And I never expected that grow because now we have more than 30 wing members, and it feels like every week someone is knocking at the door and, hey, I would like to join your wing. And hey, there are not only the old farts, but there are also some younger people. I think now we have one who was 18 or 22 or so who says, hey, I jump in and I want to learn this. And I mean, that's amazing. Everyone says, hey, flight simulations are dead, but hey, they're reborn now or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the ATO, our calendaring system that shows the scheduled flights, and I think this week alone there are at least five IQT flights, which is just great. And like you say, people are coming in the door, some of whom have had no multiplayer experience whatsoever, which is all super cool because, like we've said, it is a different thing, and highly encourage people to try it if they haven't. But then other people who were members at other organizations and they've decided to come and join us here is also super awesome. Please feel free to carry it on. But I know one thing I'm super interested to hear more about is the fact that you are working on the BMS dev team, which I think is something that a lot of people are obviously intensely interested in, simply because the output of that group, is the core beating heart of this hobby that we share. I don't want to push you ahead to that part, but at some point in your narrative, I'd love to hear more about that.
Good question. So a lot of people asked how is the benchmark sims development organized, right? And I talked to Dunk a couple of months ago. I know everyone knows him due to the public forum because he's the one who is releasing the updates. And he's doing a lot of other stuff in the background. But we talked, and if you look into the history, I think there are reasons why the BMS development team is the only remaining group that is working on Falcon 4. There were Free Falcon, Lead Pursuit, and others. Yeah? And I would say one reason is we are, if you want to use the word organized, we are more a loose group than a real company. So there are about, I would say, 60 people from different countries like Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, France, UK, US, Spain. We have people from Israel, Canada, and even Australia. So we are spread all over the world. And on average, I would say about 30 people. So developers and beta testers are working regularly on BMS. And everyone has a different background. Some are real F-16 pilots. Some others are working as coders for software companies. But in the end, every one of us is a hardcore Falcon enthusiast who spends a lot of his free time to make this simulation better each day. And another major reason that we are still alive is it's not about money. And we don't want to sell it. And we are not that organized. So although there is so-called management, that, for example, make sure that we don't get into any license issues. Actual license holder is Tomo, as you know, and but there's no product manager, there's no project leader or a business plan or even a roadmap does not exist. So working in this group is different if someone has an idea. And we all have a lot to make F4 better. But if someone has an idea, then he starts working on it. And if the others see, hey, this guy really wants to put effort into it, then others jump on the train and make it as professional as possible. And that's amazing.
So I'm a professional software developer. That's my day job. And I have been involved, I've been doing it for a long time, and I've been involved in projects across the entire scale, a lot of scale, different types of projects, all the way from, hacking away on something on my own, which, VMT is one example of that, up to a project where there were, I believe, 500 developers. When I was working at Microsoft, I worked on Visual Studio a little bit. That's a big project. And I've done a lot of open source. I've done a lot of things where the organization is more ad hoc or whatever. And it's really...
I know what you're...
yeah, go ahead.
I know what you're talking about because I'm also working for the software business for 20 years or so now.
Right. I know. And so it's really interesting because you say you're not organized, but it's clear that your group must be doing something right because I've been on teams of 5 that can't get things done. Hopefully not because of me, but you know what I mean? So to get 30 people spread across the world kind of marching in enough the same direction that we get these releases that are of increasing quality, that are of improving features that keep pace with technology, which moves very, very quickly. I mean, the gaming industry is huge, and DirectX alone, I feel like you could pay someone full time just to keep up with what's going on there and make improvements and so forth. So I think it's utterly fascinating to me to hear you describe it as loosely organized or organized more sort of collectively like that. I just find things like that interesting to hear that works and works well.
As a team with so many individuals, you always have some topics regarding the team. And I think what's quite amazing about the Benchmark Sims team is that everyone wants to have this team continue. So if something raises up at the next moment, 3-4 jump in and try to put the discussion on a level that's not harsh or so. Yeah, so you know what I mean. And and that's really special in this group, where everyone wants to have a good team spirit, and this is the success. This is one of the success of benchmark sims. Yeah.
Cool. No, that's awesome. I think what you're saying is respect, and I think that's
Yeah.
a key attribute of all of the successful wings I've been a member of as well. I suspect you'd say the same thing. Is that being respectful? If you have that, it's a great foundation to build everything else on.
Yeah. And, everyone is spending his free time. We are not paid for that. And everyone knows that everyone else is doing it for free and in his free time because he likes and loves what he does. And, so it's really great to be part of it.
Cool. Well, I think this is one of those topics we could spend an entire show talking about and waxing rhapsodic about. I don't want to move on if there's anything else that you think, maybe there's a common question you get about the dev team or whatever, if there's anything else you think our listeners would be interested in. Otherwise, I don't want to give short shrift to the other things that you've done for the community.
Some questions that raise up is, how many hours did you spend in the last month? And this is something Micro asked me a few days ago or so. And in the last couple of months, that were a lot. So I think I spent about 16 hours a week or so.
Wow.
So that's about 250 hours in the last months on developing BMS.
Wow.
But there are others who invest much more time than I do.
That's impressive. I mean, I know I didn't actually track time that I put into VMT, but I have a pretty good guess. And it takes a lot. Software takes a lot of time, and something like BMS is far more significant effort than something like other smaller projects like I've taken on. That's impressive.
But it's not about an individual person. It's not about me. Yeah? At Benchmark Sims, it's all about the team. Yeah? There's nothing a single can achieve. Right? You always need a group of people that work together. To give an example, if you want to implement a new AI-controlled aircraft, you need to make the 3D model, textures, maybe coding, a lot of database configuration, adding it to TEs and campaigns, as well as testing and documentation. Yeah? So no one does it alone. It's always a group effort.
I certainly can see that. I mean, something like this could not happen without the effort of a lot of people. But I'd also like to say thanks to you. I have you here. Thank you very much for your work on BMS, and I hope you hear that a lot. I hope the rest of the team hears it a lot. But when you next see them, I hope you'll pass that along, because it certainly extends to them as well. I think we all appreciate the work that you're putting in, and I know you get a lot out of it, like you enjoy it as well, but that doesn't mean that I can't thank you for the benefit that I get as well.
I will give it over to the team, because everyone deserves it. And another question what is coming up is, are there some departments or are there some people who do specific things? And there I would say, like I said, there's no organization, and yes, there are some experts for certain things, but in the BMS team, everyone is interested in learning more about the fantastic simulation. I mean, to understand, or I must say, try to understand the whole context. Yeah? I mean, what microprose developed back then, it's just amazing. Yeah? There's so many things that were already designed, for example, like railways or submarines. And the virtual battlefield is still unreached today. So, what is also important, over the years, many different people have worked on Falcon 4. Yeah? It's not only the BMS team, and a lot of people worked on specific topics. So, for example, I give you an example. The ATC code had about 15 lines of code 10 years ago, and today we are at over 15,000. So
Wow.
the focus is always on the team, and it's really nice for me to see everyone's interested in staying that way.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I'll repeat it. Thanks a lot for your work and all the work by all the others. It really is appreciated. I did have a question for you because I've enjoyed, and this kind of touches on sort of your later work and your work in the wing. One of the things I've always found interesting is that different people clearly have different styles when it comes to mission creation. We've talked about mission creation a little bit on the show, but your missions always have a certain flavor to them, and I'm not sure I could really describe it accurately. But we don't need to. What I'm curious to ask you is, when you're making a mission, what's your approach? Like, what sort of things are you looking to include or achieve?
It's a good question. When I start making a mission, I always look for a topic or a background story first. So I look around the internet on the history of NATO exercises or Vietnam missions or something like that, to have a new topic to give to the mission. Then the next thing I'm looking for is what kind of features or functionalities that are possible within Falcon 4 are not used so often.
Mm-hmm.
So to give you an example, when you design a mission and for example, you have to drop bombs on bridges which are covered by the red side, and you design the mission that the blue side is capturing the bridges during the ingress of the human pilots. Then they will get a call from AVEX, please return home, your target has been captured. And only people who are listening careful to AVEX will recognize it and will not bomb their own units. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And things like that. I try to figure out, hey, what is different to the standard seed, strike, TARCAP flights.
I'm laughing because I recognize exactly this sort of element from some of the missions of yours that I've flown, which I enjoyed, but the sort of non-standard or surprise aspect of it is always interesting.
Yeah, and thank you. And then I always start planning the human flights, and or first I put most of the red defense on the map, and then I start planning the blue side, the blue human flights, and adjust the timing to make it near perfect. But then I always fly the mission 3-4 times in advance to have a look, because in the F4 environment there's so much going on, and sometimes a flight can screw up because of whatever, and so it's important to fly the mission. If you want to make it a real unique mission, you have to fly it in advance. Yeah, and then I put a lot of neutral stuff into it and other flights, so that's not only a 12 ship but 50 ship that's in the air, so that you have the feeling as a human pilot that you are in a war situation, and helicopters are flying around, and you hear calls from other flights and so on, and also red flights in the air that come nearly close to you, but there are no threat to you if you stay on your flight route and not to go there to go for kills and something like that, I would say.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It is a challenge. I mean, making missions is definitely a challenge. Campaign engine is great. You're talking about making TEs for the most part, which are, I think, is much harder actually, much harder to make a good TE than to walk up to the campaign engine and not that it's trivial to do so. Certainly, it's not. But to walk up to the campaign engine and select something or tune it is I think a little bit easier.
Yeah, you have to spend more time. Yeah, as you said, to make a TE, it's not made in 30 minutes, 1 hour or so. You have to spend at least. I mean, if I do a mission, I spend 4 hours for the planning and 4 hours to write the briefing and all this stuff. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it takes some time, but at the end, it's always nice to see how the pilots react to your mission and how they solve the goals. And this is also something I like, is not only to have one goal, but to have a primary target, secondary target, so that the pilots have to decide what to do, where to go, and to make it more challenging.
Cool, awesome. Well, it was really, really great to have you on, Nick. Like I said, I've been wanting to do so since first we started this the show, and it's great to finally get a chance to do that. And of course, we'll have you back on again sometime too. But thanks so much again for all that you do for the community, but also for coming out today and talking with us. It was really fun to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tyrant. Much appreciated. It was a lot of fun, and although I was very nervous at the beginning, I feel like, it was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and I don't believe you, by the way. I don't think you were nervous at all. It didn't show. But we will close it down there. This has been the 440th VFW podcast. Thanks for listening.